Hi, today I want to talk about flashing lights and their application to listening to music. So in the past I have made videos, probably 2 videos, about neon bulbs. I find neon bulbs like these here in things, and I dig them out and I play with them. I think I've made some videos where I plug them in and look at the pretty lights, because it's it's a distinctive light. You'll know it when you see it. These will probably look orange when I turn them on because of this yellow bulb or the yellow lens around them, but usually it's kind of a pink glow. It's very pretty. So it's different than the LEDs that I usually play with, because these, even though it kind of looks the same, it's a different thing altogether. These run off a very small voltage and a very light current, and these run off of a pretty hefty current. So I just find it very interesting, and I wanted to find an application for them. I tried to put them in my synthesizers, but that takes up a lot of current, and it's a lot of different electronics that I haven't figured out yet. But one application is for a record player, and I recently have had to buy a record player. I got this used at a pawn shop because a friend gave me a record, and when about 20 years ago, I got rid of all my records and my record player because I thought I was going to be living in a very small place, and I needed to get rid of as much stuff as possible. Obviously, I didn't do that, but I don't miss them, I guess. I digitized them. I put them on my computer, so I still have the music. It's kind of the same, but now I have another turntable, and it's a cheapo turntable, and when I bought it, it was broken and I had to fix it, and I had to figure out how to calibrate it because it was spinning, it's supposed to spin at 33.5 RPMs here in the United States, and it was not. It was, you could hear it when you played the record. So I had to learn how to calibrate these things, and I'd never learned how to, because I just kind of I had the kind that you could just turn a little knob and it'd be very easy. But this has no knobs. There's no fine motor controls. It's just on or off. So there's a few ways of calibrating these things. One of them is to play a record that has a tone, and you match the tone to what it should be if it was playing the right speed. That would be a good way to do it. But there's also another way of using a strobe light, basically, to match the spin of the spokes on the record. And I think that everybody has seen when you flash a strobe at a certain rate, it looks like a thing is standing still. So the idea is you flash a strobe at a certain rate, matched to what this little motor should be running at 33 RPM, and you can adjust it on the bottom. There's 2 little holes in the bottom of this thing that reach up into that little motor, and you can adjust it a little bit. This is a very cheap machine, so it's very fiddly. In fact, I have the motor. There's a motor. This is a motor. Actually, I'm going to bring this down to show you. From now on, you'll just see my hands doing things. Makes more sense. All right, this is a motor I purchased that I was attempting to replace inside the turntable, and turns out this one wasn't the right size. So it's sitting here waiting for another turntable to come along that is the right size. But it's a good example of what's inside of these, because they're all basically these cheapo little DC motors that run on 12 volts. And the spindle here that attaches to the belt that runs the turntable itself goes down inside this can, and there's a coil of copper inside the can. And on the bottom, these two little holes. Actually, it looks like a hole, but it's kind of there's a rubber flange or something keeping it from moisture from getting inside. And one of these is labeled H. You see here H, and one of them is labeled L. The H adjusts the speed, the high speed portion of this motor, and that's the 45 RPMs. And this one, the L, adjusts the 33.5 or 33 1/3. So you access this. Actually, here, why don't I just turn this turntable upside down? This motor here is basically mounted like that, and these two little holes reach up inside. So you gotta have this little monster spinning. You gotta have it plugged in, and you move this over so that this platter starts to spin, and you gotta reach underneath and twist. I put some tape on my screwdriver so that I don't short out against the metal case, when I'm doing this. I just want this to grab on the little screw inside and twist it. So I will demonstrate that. This is the spinning part where you put your record, and if you look here, this is the spindle. This right here. You see? And it is attached to the bottom side of this platter with a belt. And in fact, look at this. See these holes here? These holes are what these are attached to through the plastic of this deck. And here's the spindle that is on basically a little ball bearing inside of here. And the rest of these gears and things are just the mechanism that they've figured out to use in order to sense when the arm has reached a certain point so that it raises up and moves back over. Why don't I just open this up? Kind of demystifies it, doesn't it? Here's the little motor, and it's connected to the front of the turntable, which is the RPMs, the 45 and the 30. Is these two wires basically determine which part of the coil is being activated, like most of it or part of it. And it's a very simple little electronic circuit. Look at there's probably like 10 components on here and a little transformer. And so that basically just calculates how fast it goes. And then over here is an on and off switch. So this right here is attached to a spindle, which is attached to the arm, and it swivels back and forth. Actually, it moves down. Right now it's parked up there at the top, and then you put it down on the record and it slowly moves down. And see, when it parks, this little switch is activated here. Right now the connections are made, and right now they're not made. There's two little pieces of metal there. So so when it gets to the end, this right now it's upside down, so it's all flopping around, but it moves the arm back. Just wanted to show you that. Sorry for the sidetrack. I'm fascinated by mechanical stuff, and I hope you are too. I'll put this back together. Returning to flashing lights. These little neon bulbs operate off of 120 amps and 60 hertz, which is what comes straight out of the wall. And I'm not going to plug them in right now because I'm going to just test the hertz that's coming out of the wall for you, so we can establish that's what this is. So here is my little ammeter, and it's I'm selected the hertz values, which right now is 0, and this is my little breakout board that's connected straight into the wall, and I'm just gonna connect it there, and you can see. Can you see? No, you can't. Come on, buddy. Make it good for the people to see. There. It's just about 60 hertz. So what does 60 hertz mean to us? Okay, you've probably seen this diagram a million times, but it's kind of useful to describe what's happening with sound or electricity when it's vibrating, when it's alternating. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking AC. It's alternating current. So this would be the baseline of 0, where there's all the potential for the electrical signal to either go up or down. And when we measure it, usually hits a high point at plus and another high point at minus, and it comes back up, and it just keeps doing that. So this is what they consider to be one cycle, the cycle of an electrical signal. And when we measure the electrical signal that's coming out of the wall, it's vibrating, obviously very, 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 very fast. We measure it, and we discover that there's 60 of these cycles per second. And that means there's 2 peaks. So at every peak it's fully charged, and these little bulbs will flash. So at 60 hertz is the measurement for vibration. At 60 hertz, it is flashing 120 times per second. And we can't see it, obviously, that's very fast. It's a very high frequency vibration, which creates to the human eye a very pleasant pink glow. And what we're going to use this for, not this one, but one like it, is to flash its little light 120 times at a spinning disc, which has little spokes on it. And every time this flashes, it'll take a little snapshot of one spoke. And then it'll flash again, and by that time, the disc will have rotated a little bit, and another spoke will appear. It'll take another flashlight, another snapshot of it. And every time this flashes, it should illuminate one spoke, so that it looks like the spokes are standing still. Let me demonstrate. I just happen to have printed out something exactly like that on a piece of paper that fits perfectly on my turntable, strangely enough. So when this spins and this flashes, this will look like it's sitting still. It should, if this is spinning at the correct speed. That's how we calibrate the motor speed of this turntable to 33 1/3 RPM. And there's a whole formula, whole science of this. I'll flash the formula on the screen. It doesn't mean much, but basically what they've done is they've just divided a circle, which is 360, into the exact number of segments it takes to match the flashing of this light. Turns out it's 216, and I learned this by going online and researching it all. I actually downloaded this. It's a PDF. You can print it out yourself, or you could go on Amazon and you can buy yourself a little mat yourself. But I want to do it myself. And I wasn't satisfied printing out a little piece of paper like this, even though this was very helpful. I don't know if you can read it. It says keystrobe.com. But this is helpful. I mean, you just put it there on your record and you do that, and you can tell, is it fast or not. But I wanted a larger one because this kind of, I have bad eyes. I have bad eyes. I can't see this tiny stuff, even though I tested it out on this. This is a piece of acrylic, and I etched it with a laser etcher. And then I smeared some paint into the etched marks to make it a little clearer. So that was fun. I did that, and then I discovered that there's a kind of acrylic that has a coating on it. It's a laser-safe coating. So when you etch it, it etches off. It goes pew pew, and it etches off that coating so that there's a non-toxic fume. And it reveals the color of the acrylic beneath it. So this was the second iteration of that, but it's still too small. And I ran into the problem that the Glowforge doesn't have a bed big enough to make to cut out a 12-inch piece of acrylic. And also, disappointingly, the place that sells the acrylic sheets for cheap that I want won't sell them in 12-inch sheets. They'll sell them in like 11.6, but not 12. So I had a little problem there. But I figured out basically, and also the Glowforge, it would have taken 3.5 hours to etch this on the Glowforge. So I printed it out on a piece of paper, and then I glued it onto the acrylic. That was the solution. And I discovered things along the way, because it's difficult to align a circle onto a circle. Like, you don't want to cut it out first and then glue it onto a circle, because it's so difficult to align. Very difficult. And this is the mistake. I will show you. I don't know if you can see it from there, but it's wobbly. You see how wobbly that is? Let me see if I can position the camera above. See how wobbly that is? And the problem with that is not only aesthetic, but it's also if you put the middle, if you put the spindle in the center of a circle, all these hash marks will obviously be symmetrically distant from the center. But if you put it off the center, as you see I did, see, made a little mistake there, then these will be faster than these, because they're spinning a little faster on this edge than they are on this edge, just a little bit. And you want to be precise, right? Because you're dealing with just the tiniest movement, the tiniest adjustment to make this exactly spin at 33 1/3. So it's going zoom, zoom, zoom. Not okay. And just to to demonstrate that even more, I've done some experiments. So I'll do that, but first you'll want to know what I've done with a little neon bulb. Well, basically I took a neon bulb, and at my makerspace, my local makerspace, I printed this little hood for it, and I mounted it inside of the hood. Isn't that cute? So there's my little neon bulb, and I strung the wires through this brass tube, and I attached the wires to a plug that I stick in the wall, and then mounted it on this. I put a nice piece of metal on the bottom of this base, so it's nice and sturdy. And I stick it in here like this. Then let me just plug this in so you can see it. I'll turn off the light too. There. Ain't that cute? Pretty little neon bulb. So, I'm just going to position that above. There we go. Position that above the strobe mat like that, and set it off. So we'll do some experimentations, and I'll talk about it as we go. Here is the printout I downloaded from the internet from keystroke.com. You can find them anywhere. Just punch in the keywords and you'll find PDFs all over the place. So, spinning it up, and I'm using my screwdriver as a little needle to show that the hash marks on the outer edge are stable, and it's been calibrated. Next is my full-sized strobe mat, the one that I cut wonky, and even though the turntable is calibrated, as you saw from the last clip, if you put the spindle hole off center, it really does matter. Look how it shifts. See, there's my little screwdriver. See how those hash marks are just going zoo, zoo, zoo. That was a good lesson for me. And just as a reminder, there's 216 hash marks on the outer edge of this. And my next one, I was curious about 108, like taking half of that number, and see what it looks like underneath that strobe. And see how every other mark is a little bit lighter. Isn't that interesting? I found that really fascinating. So while that was on the turntable, I decided I would do another little trick just to see what would happen if I shifted that strobe mat really out of whack. So, let's see what it looks like now. Now, I don't think anybody has to worry about this actually happening if they buy a strobe mat from somebody. But I was curious. I had a theory in my mind what would happen if we got a little off center, and turns out I was right. That it would have an uneven shift under the strobe. But another thing I was curious about was how thin a line needs to be, or how thin a line I could make before I would lose track of it. Because in low light conditions, with a one little pink light bulb, you might not be able to see a very thin line. Also, I was considering the possibility of etching these lines into the aluminum of the platter itself. But I ditched that idea just because these look a little bit too faint, and I kind of like having a separate mat. So this is the final form. I think this is the one I'm going to use from now on. I don't think I really need 45 RPM measurements, but all this experimenting sparked my curiosity about other things. So I have about 20 more minutes of material that I want to share with you. But with respect to your time, if all you wanted to know was this strobe mat stuff, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to see what else I've gotten up to, please look for part 2.